Hello. Welcome back to the Saba Show. And today we're going to be doing a little Brooklyn Nets season preview for season 2021/2022. The season is upon us. We're only a few days away from opening night against the Bucks. And I just wanted to make a little video before the season starts, basically, where the team is at, predictions for the upcoming season, all that jazz. So without further ado, let's just dive right into the video. First things first, let's just get out of the way the Nets roster. They had no choice to finalize everything that was going on. Last time we spoke about the roster, we said that they needed to add one player and get rid of one player. And that was adding the two-way spot and getting rid of a roster spot. We ended up getting rid of Dumboya for a second-round pick, alongside parting with a pick of our own. And then we also decided to opt for David Duke over Devontae Caycox. So ultimately, I think those two things were the right thing to do. DeAndre Bembry was the little question mark in all that discussion, but he ultimately ends up on this roster. And overall, look, I think this roster is much better than last season. I mean, all around, especially if one of our good players goes down, there's a fair amount of backup, especially those possessing, a fair amount of NBA experience. There's a lot of players, pretty much 28 and above. So that's gonna, give us a bit of confidence, if, any good player or one of the big three goes down. Just some small facts to go into the season. Last season we went 48-24. That was second in the Eastern Conference, a win behind the Sixers. Ended up losing to the Bucks in the conference semifinals. That was in Game 7. If Kevin Durant had, a smaller shoe size, we probably would have gone a bit further. But nonetheless, I think given the situation, it was a fair effort. It was a damn fair effort. And yeah, I think this team can go much better. That's provided, we stay out of the injury bug. We went 3-1 in the preseason. Beat the Wolves, beat the Lakers, beat the Bucks, and then we lost to the Sixers in fairly convincing fashion. So look, preseason is really misleading. A lot of teams aren't playing their best players, or even if they do, they're playing them on limited minutes because you want to, play them enough so they're, well versed in what they're going to do opening night. But in saying that, you keep them out of, any possible injuries they may pick up. So look, I'd say this is misleading, but, the signs are being good. And we've been able to see, a few signs from the younger players that we probably will be starved of throughout the season because, these older veteran players are going to be getting more opportunities. Let's just discuss questions for the upcoming Nets season. And there is a few. I can't lie. Look, I think the overarching question is what will be the thing, if anything, that stops this Nets team from winning a ring? And there's already been signs, there's been a lot of discussion in the news as to certain things already coming up that could prevent the Nets from winning a ring. And I think the main one is what's Kyrie's fate. Obviously, he hasn't decided to take the vax. There's obviously no indication if he will or not, but the Nets have made the conscious decision to not let Kyrie play. And I think it makes sense, if you're going to be half-assed, you're going to play half the games. I think it actually serves as a detriment because, you're not really getting the time to establish and maintain that chemistry because Kyrie's always going to be in and out of the team, and you're asking a lot of the other point guards / shooting guards on the roster, whoever replaces Kyrie, you're asking a lot of them to have to play with the first and second unit. I mean, we say first, next man up. And these glue guys, that's their role. So, when they're called upon, they've got to be prepared. I think Kyrie just being in and out of the team for 41 games is just, it's not going to be healthy. It's going to make it much more difficult, I think, for the Nets to play a consistent brand of basketball. And that does lead into my next question. Will the glue guys step up? When I say glue guys, I'm basically referring to all the filler pieces, the role players. So that is your DeAndre Bembry, that is your Aldridge, that is your Millsap, that is your Mills. Javon Carter, even Bruce Brown, all these guys. Last season, you know, we saw Jeff Green at times probably be the biggest contributor of the role players. And when he went missing, you know, we sort of tended to struggle a little bit. I think it's going to be really reliant on a team effort because, you know, if one player has a really stinker performance, it's going to rely on these glue guys to pick up the slack and ensure that the Nets team isn't dragged down by, you know, a bad performance from one of the better players. That's like saying, well, if James Harden only gets 15 and like 6 assists, who's going to be that player to pick up the slack and get, you know, 20 points to ensure that you're basically getting a James Harden 35-point performance? You know what I'm saying? Another question I think a lot of Nets fans have on their mind is what role will the younger guys on this roster have to play? We're talking Day'Ron Sharpe, Cam Thomas, and Nick Claxton. That's probably the big three in terms of younger players. I can't see Day'Ron Sharpe getting a run because there's a lot of center talent ahead of him. That is with both veteran experience and just straight up better. So obviously it'll take a lot of time for him to get going. But I think the more intriguing name on this list is Nick Claxton. Obviously you've got Aldridge to contend with, Blake Griffin to contend with, and Paul Millsap to contend with. All these players have come in through the offseason, or, you know, Blake Griffin in the middle of last season. But yeah, where does Nick Claxton's role sit? Because I think there's a lot of belief within the organization that Nick Claxton can make the jump this year. But will he be starved of that opportunity, courtesy of, you know, bringing in Aldridge and bringing in Millsap? Is that going to, you know, stunt his development a little bit? I think I can see him having a bigger role on this team. You know, it could very well come down to the fact that he could be guarding Giannis if there's a Nets-Bucks series again, because he's got that in him. He's shown the versatility to guard 1 through 5. So I think that there is potential there. But yeah, I don't know whether he will fit or whether he'll get, you know, a large amount of minutes because of these guys coming into the roster over the offseason. And I think another question that ultimately resulted in the Nets' downfall last season, I think that can be debated, but it was one of the major factors, that is, will the Nets roster stay away from the injury bug? And yeah, big question. I mean, some of these players are a bit prone to injury. Obviously, it's going to come down to Durant and Harden, especially if Irving is out. You're not going to have as much insurance in terms of having really highly skilled players, you know, staying healthy. But in saying that, yeah, I think that's just going to be key. We've got to look after these players. And, you know, ultimately, I think if this roster can be fit come May, or, you know, whenever the playoffs begin, if this team is healthy, they're going to look damn dangerous at full strength. So, look, I think that's going to be one of the big questions. Hopefully we can get a good run early in the season without any injury issues. We haven't had too many problems over the off season, so hopefully these guys are ready and raring to go for, you know, opening night. My predictions personally, last season we went 48-24. This season I think we will lose the same amount of games, but we'll win 10 more because we're back to an 82 game season. I think we'll win 58 games. I don't think we're a 60-win team. I do acknowledge the fact that there are going to be distractions. You know, it's not a net season without there being problems. Injury bugs, this Kyrie situation. I think that's going to contribute in negative ways more than positive. But in saying that, look, I think the roster is much better than last season. So I think we'll be able to one-up our performance on last season. I think we also have to factor in that last season, we did very well to get to 48-24. We got James Harden in when we were at 500. I think it was 7-6 or something like that. And then it took a bit of time for, you know, that big three to mesh, basically. And, you know, there were plenty of injuries throughout the year, injury management, COVID problems. Yeah, I think there's going to be improvements. And that's not to say that other teams aren't going to improve as well, because obviously they're going to have you know, a bit more ease in terms of avoiding, you know, COVID protocols and whatnot. But overall, I think we have the potential to, you know, be a 60-win team, but I also think that that thought comes with a little bit of doubt. So I'm going to say 58. Anyway, that's basically my outlook on the upcoming Nets season. I'm very excited for it. Because, yeah, this is probably the best chance we'll get at winning the chip. So hopefully we can stay healthy. Fingers crossed. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to drop a like on the show. We will be doing plenty of watch-alongs throughout the NBA season for all Nets games, so make sure to tune in for that and subscribe to the show because, yeah, you want to be notified when all this shit is happening. Anyway, thanks for watching once again. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.